Hi, welcome back. It's time for my part four and the final part of this campaign update State of the Union. I guess State of the World I kind of already made in my special announcement that I made the other day when the U.S. and Israel started bombing Iran. So I don't think I have to do much in the world. And then I did post something about the song that I had made, A Smile for Peace. We Are One, Smile for Peace. And so I recommend listening to that. It's a good one. Worldwide, I'm generally concerned because Iran was the big voice for the Palestinian people, and now there's turmoil and conflict going on, hostilities. So, I don't know how much they can speak out on behalf of the Palestinians anymore. And so this is concerning, certainly. I guess that'll be my state of the world at this moment. Yeah, it's yeah, war is just not good, killing is not good. It's not good. No matter how you slice it, it's not good. I mean, domination is not good, dictatorships are not good, fascism is not good, none of it's good. And it's sad that sometimes it has to go to this boiling point of war and killing and or conflict, because it's not a war because Congress hasn't declared it a war. So it's a conflict. But this is it's hard. It's hard. My heart goes out to the Iranian people. And watching their country being devastated, one thing after the other, it just breaks my heart, and it needs to stop. The Iranian people need to heal and grow and flourish. And this is so sad. But I'm sure of one thing, that good will prevail. Good will show itself. And I recommend that everybody goes to the good, especially in this case. That's what I can say. And time will expose what needs to be exposed. So, I want to get back to what I've been talking about the canvassing and what the word means and how it's being used and what are some of the tactics organizations, lobbyists, and political parties, which are also lobbyists, are doing to the public. So, I became unregistered and unaffiliated with the Republican Party already like 2 years ago. But I'm still getting propaganda from them. And in fact, I have 2 political ID cards saying that I'm a Republican. So I could vote using those IDs if I wanted to. Even though there's no picture of me, one has a picture of Donald Trump on it. And I just find this whole thing very, very crazy. The things that the public blindly agreed to over the years, and are now law for a long time, and of course the Democrats and Republicans don't want to give up power. I mean, I understand that, but get used to it. It's going to happen because cheating, stealing is unacceptable. So I have here a questionnaire that says it's delivered exclusively to me, and it is for the 2026 Congressional District Canvass, commissioned by the Republican Party. And they need me to participate as a key facet of our overall strategy to ensure President Trump is successful in making America great again. The Republican Party is conducting a canvass of key members and supporters in congressional districts all across our nation. The opinions registered in this document will be used to build a nationwide grassroots network that will show President Trump has mandate directly from the American people to act on critical issues facing our country. So maybe this was one of these, because this was already due last month and I didn't send it in. So maybe this is why he's able to act now. He's got the backing, the mandate from the public via this form. It looks very official, and people who are not citizens might be confused by it, think it's like a voting thing or something. So I have problems with a lot of these sort of propaganda pieces from different lobbyists in our country who try to confuse the public. It's not fair, it's not ethical, and it needs to stop. And that goes not only with paper mail, but also with emails and with texting. It's not ethical to try to hide yourself and make yourself look a certain way. It's just not acceptable. So, honesty, truthfulness. I know it's boring, but that is where the line of integrity is. So here the instructions for this form is, please answer all the questions as to the best of your ability. All individual responses will be kept confidential, and only survey tallies will be shared with the White House and all our Republican leaders. When you are finished answering the canvassing document, please return it within the next 7 days to ensure accurate tabulation. Okay, so the political profile, they want to, I guess, know me. Are you generally identify yourself as a conservative Republican, independent voter who leans Republican, other moderate Republican, liberal Republican, or Democrat? So, truthfully, I don't know where I am, but I'm skeptical. So, and I'm a humanitarian, if that helps. Do you plan to vote in the 2026 midterm elections? That's none of your business. And this is one of the organizations who gave me a card, by the way. How do you usually cast your vote? In person on election day, early voting, or by mail? Again, that's none of your business. Currently, do you plan on supporting Republican candidates? Again, that's none of your business. But I guess if you provide good quality candidates, then there's a good chance, right? What is your age category? I mean, that's doesn't really matter, but yeah, you can do that, but that has really no bearing. How close do you think your views are to other voters in your community? Again, you don't really have to answer that. I look at each issue separately, so I don't know. Some things might be close and some things might be far apart. So how do I usually get my news? Nowadays it's websites, internet blogs, social networks, little posts on all the general pages, YouTube and Google, I suppose. I don't have a TV, and I don't purchase the newspaper. I save trees and electricity. Do you think our nation is going in the right direction or wrong direction? Well, I see it going in a good direction, although attacking Iran is questionable, in my opinion. We have to wait for the dust to settle here and find out what that's all about. But it was moving in the right direction, I thought. It could move faster if the Supreme Court would act on my lawsuit, but otherwise we have to go through this slow and painfully. But it would be nice to pay mothers sooner than later, so if we can speed this up at all, that would be great. Do you approve of the job President Trump is doing? Yes, I think he's doing okay. He's moving the country towards my platform, and I see that, so I think that's wise. This Iran attack has thrown me for a loop, so I was not expecting this, but maybe there's some reason why. Do I approve of the performance of Republicans in Congress? That's a good question. I don't know. I suppose I do prefer them to the Democrats mostly. But some of them are also peacocks, is what I can say. Do you believe voters should be required to show photo identification before being allowed to vote? Yes, absolutely. But not like pretend party cards. No. It has to be real IDs, like ones issued by the government. And the Republican card is not one issued by the government. So it would have to be government made. Do you believe social media companies suppress conservative messages and ban anti-democratic news in order to influence public opinion? Absolutely. The media is oftentimes lying, not just to suppress conservative messages, but also there are multiple media sources now, so each one has their special group they're silencing, and so it depends what you want to hear. But I do believe that the media in general, that's why, having our elections announced and information given through the media, like the newspaper or TV, that has this filter of silencing certain things, having government information given to me through media is out there to be corrupted. And so I want a direct line to my government. My government should be sending me the information about what I'll be voting on at every election. I'm a U.S. citizen, living in a state, living in a home, and I should get a ballot, a piece of information about a booklet about what we are voting on. And they don't do that. They don't do that. So this is exactly where the problem lies. So they do give it to the newspaper, and then you're expected to buy the newspaper to get the information. But if the media, the newspaper, is constantly lying, why would I believe anything that's written in there? Do you approve of the actions President Trump is taking to remove DEI from our nation's schools, corporations, U.S. military, and federal government offices? Yes, I think we had that in place long enough, and we no longer need those mandates. We're beyond the time of sort of racial segregation type thing. I mean, it does still happen, and it happens also naturally. Everybody sort of wants to be comfortable where they live, right? But to force it, I don't think it's necessary anymore. I will say that it seems that women are still not being represented, and this is a huge problem. So I'm undecided which way we're going with this, and I've been waiting for signals so that I know which way to go. I hope to have a decision made by the end of the week. I think we might just have to start a whole female branch of the head of the government. And so, because currently our government on all levels focuses so much on men and men's issues, women, we're welfare. That's what we get, welfare. So it is just time to have a woman's voice and have woman impact on things. And so I think we're going to be moving to a, executive branch of two people, a male and a female, and just separate the decision making, because you men are focused on confrontation and influence and all of this, and women are focused on interior and taking care of things and nurturing what's here. And the two things complement each other, because when you have them working together, then you have a complete sort of world going on. But right now we're heavy on the aggression and the confrontation side, and very light on the taking care of the interior. And it's got to stop. Women deserve to be paid for what is going on. Women deserve to be paid for our important work of raising the next generation of U.S. citizens and citizens anywhere. And so this is not just for U.S. women. This is eventually for the world women. But so I guess, I have to look at it that way and take steps in that direction, I suppose. So, I don't agree with, forcing people to come together. It should happen naturally. So, But it is not in some cases, especially when gender is included, because men don't want women around when they're out of the home. They want to be with men and do men things. And, I understand it to an extent, but women's voices are not being heard. And so we need a women's division. And that's what I'm working on. So, how concerned are you about cancel culture and free speech? Well, we have, so the Republicans call it cancel culture, and the Democrats call it another thing. And I think free speech is free speech. And I think we should be able to say words that we want to say. And sometimes it might not be what you want to hear, but it is what is being said. We watch all this violence and everything, gross stuff and disgusting and bad-mannered things on TV, but yet in real life we have to walk in this very narrow road, and we can't push buttons, and this is not freedom. So when you talk with me, it could be that I might swear occasionally. I might say things that offend you. That's what a conversation is about anyways. But yeah, so get used to being flexible. And I do understand that there are people who are out there to insult. And trust me, I've been insulted many times myself. So, it happens. There are mean people out there. And just know that there are mean people and learn to walk away. How confident are you in the integrity of U.S. elections? I am not at all confident. I think this is one of the reasons why I'm making this video about canvassing, is to show, in my state, they canvass the election. What does that mean? And there's too many fingers in the pie, too many final decisions and votes being thrown out, and this is unacceptable. So I have gone over the things that have happened to me in many elections since I started voting, just to me alone, not to mention the other people that I've talked to. And yeah, there's absolute corruption in the elections. We need a new way of electing people, and this is how we have to do it. So I have a lawsuit pending with the Supreme Court, and then we need to act on it. And the Supreme Court needs to make a ruling. So that's where we are. Then, do you believe the Democrats, the national news media, and social media sites have a strong bias against all things Republican and fail to tell America's voters the real facts about our policies, goals, and accomplishments? No, I don't believe I don't believe it's targeted against Republicans, because there's the flip side to every coin, and the Republican-leaning media does the same thing. So the best thing to do is get a blend of media to get information, but it does seem that, so everybody knows that shock sells newspapers. Shock will get people to turn on to your channel and watch it. So if you're not shocking people, then they're not going to watch, But this is another problem, is we have to teach our citizens that it's okay to be boring, and it's okay to be happy and to not have problems, so that people will stop creating problems in their own world, and we can all then get along. So peace is possible. Being together is possible. And having accurate facts is also possible. But Not if we're going to always also point fingers and have it us versus them. That doesn't work. So that has to stop as well. So, pointing out, saying the Democrats, it's a standard strategy of the two parties is to point fingers at the other party. That's why you need two, because you got to be able to point at one. You don't need more because that's just a distraction, right? But we actually do need more because the two parties have found a way to take over our country and they're not giving it back. And this is a problem because our U.S. Constitution starts with we the people. It doesn't start with we the Democrats and Republicans. So somewhere along the line, they started taking advantage of their position. And now they're not letting anybody else in. And we've never had a libertarian in any position of power. We've never had a Green Party member in any position of power. So it's not really working where it is. So to blame Democrats, I don't know if I would do that. Do you feel that progressive Democrats and so-called woke corporations are still waging a cultural war and dividing Americans along racial lines for their own personal or political gains? So I think there are factors, both liberal and conservative, who are trying to pull the country apart because they can, because they're antagonists. And this is where we need to stop this. We all have the Bill of Rights. We all have a right to freedom of speech and expression and religion and all sorts of things, privacy. And we need to be respectful to each other. We are all human beings on this planet and we have to get along. And so the less of the us versus them is probably the best way. And learn to be curious, not in a silly way, but just learn to be respectfully curious. And you might learn something too. There's more than one way to live a life. And you may like your way, but your way won't fit on somebody else's lifestyle. So they might have a different way. And that's okay. Do you believe parents have the right to have input on what their children are taught in schools? Absolutely. So in Europe or in Switzerland, parents were regularly meeting with the teachers and going in and observing classroom time to see how the kids are interacting together with the teacher and to see how the teacher works and everything. I don't know if that is even happening in the USA. If it's not, it should be happening. And my platform focuses on giving flexibility to the families, except I require that all kids come to class in the morning, Monday through Friday. They come in, they learn the basics like writing, arithmetic, and whatnot, and then they go home for lunch. That way, I, as the government or the person, the organization that organizes your citizenship, I have some rights to you too, because you were born in this land, and I want to make sure you're safe. Because sometimes parents have difficulties and they get depressed, and then they take these things out on their children. So we don't want that to happen. So I would like children to come 5 days a week in the morning and have a school experience where they meet with their peers, children of the similar age, and they learn how to get along. They learn the basics and they learn how to get along, because some kids are being raised as only children, and that's also not good, because they later in life they might be confronted by differences, and then they're going to it's going to cause problems for them. So this way, they will already know how to deal with others and learn how to get along. And then that's in the morning. So like the first 3 hours of the day. Then they go home for lunch with mom being at home. And then they come back. And they, I should say, they can come back. They don't have to. They can stay home and be homeschooled. They can come back to public school, or they can go off to a private school. There are no more charter schools. Charter schools have to decide, am I a private school or am I a public school? That's what a charter school needs to decide. So like if you are a very Christian person and you want your child to learn a lot about Jesus, then in the morning they come to public school and they have the public experience. And then they go in the afternoon to your Catholic school or your Protestant school or wherever you're sending them. So they can have that cultural experience too. So this is what I would recommend. There are different ways. So the public school will be open in the afternoon too, and in the afternoon it will be based more on creativity things. So like music and art and philosophy and maybe some extra math or reading or writing or so then you might get some Shakespeare and some other things in the afternoon. But then, as you know, my plan is that at the age of 13 to start teaching kids how to write resumes and start thinking about a career choice. I think it should be stressed that a career is no longer necessary to be a lifelong career. It could be that after 20 years you decide to change and do a different career, or even after 10 years. Or your career, you might start in one spot, being a house painter, but then by the time you're done, you're doing murals. And so, life is not always so structured. It's open. And so you have the whole world to choose from. So you don't have to stick exactly with what, you're set up to be, but you need to get started. And this is what I find is failing in our country, is that our kids are starting too late. So I want them started at 13, deciding what they want to test out, what they might want to learn as their first sort of trade or skill or career. And some will know automatically. Some will say, I want to be a nurse or a mechanic, or I want to be a lawyer or whatever. And then there are some that are confused. So there will be things given to find out people's skills and talents, and they will be guided to go on a test, a sneak peek at a job. It's sort of like taking your daughter to school or your kid to school or to work day, but it's even not just with you, it's with your neighbor or whatever. So the kid gets an experience of what's out there. So during that first period of time, you're going to be 13, you'll put together a little resume of things that you do. I made a lemonade stand once, or I'm with the Girl Scouts or the Boy Scouts, or, or maybe I'm just staying at home and I like to build things, or I like pottery or painting. But you put a little resume together, and then you go and the first half of being, 7th grade, I guess, would be going around and seeing a few different jobs. Then you come back and you say, okay, I want to go for that one. And then from there, then you also have to write a letter back saying, thank you for showing me around and giving me that experience. Then you apply for a real apprenticeship. And then, I guess, 14, 15, 16, 17. Yeah. So, at 14, you want to start your apprenticeship, and you want to be working towards a final goal. It's a 3-year program. You'll have classroom training, and then you'll have on-site training, and you'll have experiences with small business doing that and big business doing that, so that you can be informed about this career choice you're doing. And again, you'll have to write cover letters and go on job interviews, and then you'll be accepted, and so on. So this is around during your 13th year. 13th into your 14th year. 14 you start, so that's 8, 9, 10. Wait, so yeah, so 7, 8, 9, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, I guess something like that. I have to look at the real schedule, but the idea is that you learn how to write these things on your own. You learn about your talents and your wants, and then you can go forward. And so this will give kids a lot of happiness and joy when they get the intern or the apprenticeship that they want. And then after the apprenticeship, they will have a certificate saying they have these amount of skills. And it's not a bachelor's degree or anything like that. So if you want that, you have to continue. But it gives you a certain level of skills to live on a relative level of life. Most people will spend their lifetime going to school. It's not something that you also even go to university or college for 4 years and then you're done. Most people continue learning, whether it's on the internet or whatever, but it will give you a little bit of basics and a paycheck. So already at 14, 15, you'll be earning some money, and you'll learn how to save it and how to, how to slowly move into adult life is what it does, with confidence, because you'll have helpers there to guide you. So, parents, that was about parents. Yes, I think that they should. And, but hopefully, the input is there'll be, like I said, public school in the morning, and then the parents can decide in the afternoon. There's public school in the afternoon too. The kids can come there for free. Or if you want a private school experience, you're free to go there too. So that's up to you. But my goal is to make the U.S. public schools so good that you're not going to want to send your kids to private schools. That's my goal. And I've seen what works, and it's going to work. You're going to like it. So, as large tech companies continue to implement artificial intelligence, do you view it as a positive or negative development? I don't think it has to be everywhere. And I think we're fast moving towards overstimulation again. We seem to be very good at liking something and then taking it over and then expanding it so much that it just is overpowering. And then it blows up in everybody's face. And so I do feel that might be coming. I think we should, we have to, of course, keep pace with the rest of the world with certain things, especially defense-wise. But I don't know. I mean, I think the best thing with artificial intelligence and creating like little humans would be to put them in jobs that are not safe for humans, like coal mining. We can make machines that go into the coal mines and mine the things. One thing that so deep sea diving, retrieval of minerals and other things, we can get the robots to do that. What I guess would also be good would be, maybe every house has one that can lift heavy things so that we don't break our backs anymore. That would be good, sort of like an ironing board where you can pop it away if you don't want it right now. And then when you need it, you pull it out and it can lift, really heavy things. That could be, or it can screw in a light bulb or something, it has automatic, it can expand and become very tall to change light bulbs and fix roof issues and stuff like that. So why not? Yeah, a household AI, a household helper, sort of like, what was that? Hamburger helper, but a household helper. There we go. Why not? Then, but I think this is why apprenticeships is also a good idea, is to give us skills so that we don't lose the human skills that we have. So I want weavers, I want bakers, I want chocolate makers, I want butchers, and I want basket weavers, and pottery makers, and steel workers, all having local businesses in almost every town or nearby towns, certainly in every county. There should be a certain amount of each one of those things. And so every sort of job should be represented. A repair person, a garage, an animal doctor, a human doctor, and maybe a little hospital for care, and it may be a senior center too. And a community center, and a shooting house, and, so there are a certain amount of things that will be and need to be there. And so this will, that's what the apprenticeships are for, to teach us these skills so that we don't lose the human skills that we have naturally. And if artificial intelligence gets way too smart, we can at least survive without them, So we need to spread the knowledge to many and give people purpose. And so if you are happy just being a baker in your little town, then just be a baker in your little town. You don't have to be some mogul or whatever. That's not necessary. Then, please mark in order of importance, with 1 being the most, which 5 issues you feel must be prioritized by priority addressed by Donald Trump and the Republicans in Congress. Addresses nation's economic problems. I think that is number 1, right? Because, we've got all this debt. And now apparently we have all this money from tariffs. So why don't we put the tariffs money into the paying down the debt, so that the next time we have to pay some debt, we pay less interest on it and more of the base amount that was borrowed. And then what we need is Congress to act on those tariffs and make them law, so that they can stay in place and we can continue to earn money from them. So reduce taxes. Yes, that would be great. What we need to reduce and increase, actually, but for the right things. So we need to get rid of all the loopholes and all the write-offs and everything, and just pay your taxes. But with that said, the first 100,000 of all tax, so income tax, can be written off. So just take that, cut off the first 100,000, and then you pay taxes on what's left. And for the top 1%, we might have to look at wealth. And if you have a certain amount over, we'll say like $500,000, if you have over $500,000 in your bank account, then there might be like a 1% charge on that to cover wealth tax, so that we can keep social projects going forward. I think wealthy people will also be happy with that concept, because if the average person is well taken care of and can afford things, they're going to be happier. And therefore, when you, wealthy person, go out, you don't have to worry about being robbed or your home being burglarized or being killed or kidnapped or anything. You will feel that your life is not in jeopardy, and then you can enjoy your life too. So it's a benefit for all if the wealthy pay a wealth tax. It's social. I know. So, and I want to say this, there's a difference between communism and socialism. And for some reason, socialism has been mixed up with communism in a lot of people's minds in the US. And this has created a lot of people stating things they have no idea what they're talking about. So to share the wealth is not the worst thing. And 1% for the top 1% is not going to hurt them one way or another. But it's going to be the difference between people on the lower part, middle class to lower class to poverty. It could lift them out of poverty and moving into a better class system altogether, where the classes can still exist but be more even, more harmonious. So lower inflation, absolutely. What I noticed is that some companies are either they're not asking to raise prices on their products that they're selling, like in the grocery store. And so they're either taking the extra tariffs on themselves, or the extra inflation on themselves, or from whoever they're buying it from, they're taking on that. Or maybe it doesn't need to exist, inflation, and maybe we can just go back to the prices from, many years ago. So I don't know what the holdup is, but there's a big difference between shopping at one store and shopping at another. So choose your grocery stores wisely, and they're not all made the same. Then ensure fair trade. Well, I think that is certainly a good one. I don't think that's 100% high on our priority list, but it's a good one. Defeat Democrats. So whenever it's, again, us versus them, as a Republican, you have to represent Democrats in your job. They're part of your community that you're representing from your state. And as a Democrat, you have to represent Republicans. So to constantly put down the other, it's just childish. So I'm going to say Republicans, grow up. Then, and I'm going to say also Democrats, grow up. It's really crazy what you guys do to each other. But anyways, big government, socialist agenda. So they're claiming that Democrats have a big government socialist agenda, which I think we do. I don't think it's Democrats anymore. I think it might even be Republicans realizing this, that we have this issue of AI coming, and we will be out of work soon. So the socialist agenda is so I like to call it friendly capitalism, where we take care of our neighbors. Is that wrong? No, it's not wrong. So Again, it's just the wording is so nasty. I mean, you can, but you also have to realize that people see you as being childish. And this is an official document from the Republican Party, so it's crazy. Fight nation's growing crime problem. Well, I think Donald Trump is using my concept of have the National Guard walking around on the streets. Guys going to duty, women going to duty should be in their uniforms, walking around, because then you feel safe. And if there's a bad guy in the neighborhood and they see like a National Guards person, they're going to be like, oh, they're trained at killing, so I have to behave myself. That's how it works. So sending the National Guard into towns and villages and big cities and small cities all around our United States is a great thing. It's in my platform. I also wanted to take them from, like from Georgia and send them to Hawaii so they can see what a great country we have and have that experience. And then they come back and they're like, oh, Hawaii is so cool. Or people from Hawaii going to Georgia and saying, wow, Georgia is so cool. So, and we have this great big country. So let's celebrate it. Let's utilize our country to celebrate it with our own citizens. So I'm 100% for what is already working, reducing crime, supposedly, is by bringing the National Guard in. It's working. So, well done, Donald Trump. Or I should say President Trump. Protect our individual liberties. Yes. Protecting our individual liberties, 100%. That is a must. And that's the job of ourselves and the National Guard and our government. We need to protect our civil liberties. Individual liberties. Make the U.S. energy independent. Yeah, we can. We have a lot of sunshine here. So I recommend solar panels. We don't necessarily always have to go for things that will be used up once, like gasoline and natural gas. So we don't have to go the pollutant route. We can go the solar route. Then strengthen America's military. I think that's good. We also need to reduce it, and we need to give it a separation. So there's the National Guard, which is the nation, and then there is the defensive guard from outside. We need to stop this imperialism and policing the world. It is time the world takes care of themselves. I know President Trump just had us get involved with taking out another dictator, fascist from Iran. And although there are good things about that, we need to refrain from doing that, in my opinion, because it's none of our business, truthfully. The people need to step up. The neighboring countries need to step up. We are not the end-all police of the world. And as you know, I have this concept of a group of 6 or 7, depending on how we break up the earth, and each one will have like one dominant nation that will be the general protector of that area, and then by the end the whole earth is covered with protection. Because we got to start working together, folks, not in pointing fingers and us against them. It's not that. So, yeah. So we want to keep the military strong, for sure, and fit, and up to date. That's true. Then continue to improve the care of our nation's veterans. Yes. Well, and I want to add to the National Guard. I want to put the National Guard under a category called domestic tranquility. And there'll be the National Guard and National Care. And National Care will be the other division. Everyone will have to sign up for the national, so domestic tranquility. You're either under care or guard, and that's up to you. And then there will be training and everything, but care for the veterans should go 100% up from what it is now. I've heard all sorts of terrible things about how our veterans are being treated. But I also want to say that we also need to think about how mothers are being treated and how mothers trying to transition back to work are being treated, and mother care as well, or grandmother care even, and so on and so forth. So we have a lot of reorganizing that we need to do to be inclusive of all of our adult citizens, not just some. Fix our nation's broken immigration policies. Yes, well, first, I would like to extend a branch to Mexico and Canada and see if they want to become a United State. So my understanding is there are Mexicans who want to take back anyways part of the United States to their country, that they feel that we stole from them or whatever. And, part of the immigration issue with the Mexicans is that they're trying to do that. They're coming in and they're settling into these states and hopefully going to turn them over to a Spanish focus and whatnot. And that, I understand whatever. People do what they do and people have thoughts that they do and stuff. But let's just make it official. And then the great thing there with like Mexico becoming a United State would be that in 14 years, a Mexican who is then, when they become a state, their citizens automatically become U.S. citizens. Then, in 14 years after they become a state, we could have the first Mexican president of the United States. So then you have your land and more back, So it's not the worst idea for Mexico to become a United State. I highly recommend it. And even Canada, too. The fact that we're going to maybe build this Golden Globe protection thing, it kind of means that Canada should become a United States, too. And when I say Canada, I don't mean that it should stay as one. It could split up into different areas, different states. There could be 4 or 5 states in there. And even Mexico could be 4 or 5 states. But the point is that, if we're going to be protecting them, then they're either going to have to pay for it or they need to become a state. And again, it's, just imagine a Canadian being president of all of North America. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Wouldn't you like that? So I think, we need to those two countries need to think about the future and what their citizens might want. And, maybe it isn't right currently to say yes to these proposals, but down the road, it might be the right time to say yes to these proposals. So just think about it, Canada and Mexico. I think it would be great. And it's not because I want to expand the U.S., but it just makes sense. Because right now we have these enormous borders that are impossible anyways to protect unless we put up walls, which we could. But why? When we know our people want freedom of movement. So just come on in. And then you can have a say also in the United States group and have your influence on the country, on the North America around you. Canada, that would open you up to fresh produce from Florida and Mexico and everything. And yeah. I don't know. Think about it. Address the national fentanyl crisis. Well, I think by getting people working in apprenticeships, I think that will automatically take care of that. I do feel that, and I guess that's why also President Trump is maybe doing these, going after the drug dealers in the boats, is about the fentanyl, right? So maybe, I don't really, I'm not so familiar with the whole drug issue, but some drugs are okay to use. And as an adult, I think adults should have the right to use certain drugs in a recreational way. I don't want people using certain drugs and driving, or even using a lawnmower, or maybe even using kitchen appliances. So I recommend like sort of drug hotels where people can go in and have a creative experience on drugs. I think a lot of people fantasize about tripping or smoking certain things. And well, the other thing too is getting a grip on drugs is also good because fentanyl is one, but now today there's marijuana that will paralyze you if you're not a regular smoker already, and suddenly you are frozen for about 6 hours. You cannot move. So you definitely don't want to use it outside during winter because you will freeze to death. Period. You cannot move. You cannot believe it, but it does happen, and you need to smoke indoors. So we need to provide the adults a place where they can be adults. We have gambling casinos, right? So let's do this too. Because stop denying that adults want to try things. And if we give them a safe environment to try things, they can try it, and maybe they like it, maybe one time is enough. So then it's done. But then we don't have them driving around on the streets being high or being on mushrooms or something and tripping. And we don't have them on the street walking around, dragging, lying all over the place because they're tripping or something. So we need to rethink this because, too, the street drugs coming in from overseas have poisons in them, and they're poisoning our people. So we need to get our farmers out in the Midwest to start growing other crops so that our people can have happy and healthy, experiences with these sort of products without the fear and risk of dying from poisons. So, yeah. So this is my sort of fentanyl drug crisis situation. We need to get drugs off the street and into a place that's safe. I see these like hotel motel type places where there's also a doctor and nurses on call in case something goes wrong, also so that you get the proper dose, you don't overdose. And so yeah, and it can be really fun. There could be musical instruments in a room, and there could be people who want to have like a private event, a private experience, or ones that want to have a group event, or just imagine like a creative center where you can have these sort of extra creative experiences. And perhaps we'll have new visionary concepts coming out of people that will take humanity into new directions. So let's let adults be adults, but safely. Our job as a country is to protect our citizens. And that's public safety number one on all levels. And right now I'm not seeing that on many levels. And this is what is mostly concerning me. So we also need to realize that mothering is a job, and we need to pay mothers. This is crucial. So this is my number one. And we need to change our education system to apprenticeships. That's number two. Because this will revolutionize our country. Absolutely. It will get everybody happy and working and producing in ways that come naturally to them. Then please indicate the top 5 issues that are most important to you in deciding who to vote for. So again, it's sort of what are the things that are most important. And again, it's mothers, education, federal deficit, jobs, and environment. I think we are doing actually okay on most other things. But my platform, the part that President Trump is implementing, is working. So part of my stuff is already working. But I guess, yeah, his recent move in Iran is probably due to this document being handed in, perhaps. But anyway. How confident are you that America's economy will improve in the next 6 months? Well, with AI coming, I don't know. Again, the wealth will be in one hand only, and the rest of us will suffer because we're going to be out of jobs. So we need to act fast on this new way of living and start implementing it now. And then we need to add that wealth tax onto wealthy people. Which of the following is the single most important economic issue facing you and your family? Inflation and retirement. Then, do you agree that President Trump and our Republican leaders in Congress should be aggressive in working to pass legislation to create jobs, cut taxes and regulations, lower inflation and economic uncertainty, and make America more competitive? I want to stop with this competitive thing. We need to make ourselves better. We need quality in the USA. Right now, we don't have quality. We have quantity. So we need to move back to quality, put quality back into our made in America products. So yes, I would implement all my ideas because that's exactly going to take care of all of that. So which of the following factor do you feel will help the economy fully rebound? Okay, so I wrote that reducing regulations, so getting rid of frivolous laws, is 100% going to help. And then reduce massive government spending. Yes, so that will also help. We don't need to spend so much on the military. We need to take that money and move it to pay mothers to come home and be mothers. Because it's really hard to do mothering with good quality if your mind is on your job. So then there's a pull. There's plenty of time for women to have other careers later, even during the end time of active motherhood, when you're slowly moving to passive motherhood. There's time to pick up a second or third career then, because we never know when motherhood's really going to happen. or if we put motherhood completely in control of when a woman wants to do that. One woman might want to do it when she might want to become a mother when she's 16 already. Some women might want to wait until they're 26, and some might want to wait until they're 36. And so we do have to have these options available. I recommend the earlier the better, because then you have your children for longer, and you will eventually come to a time where maybe you've had enough children, and then you want to focus, you've now learned what you want to focus on, where you see yourself fitting into society. And then you can easily move into that later. Life is long. We can certainly have 2 to 3 to 4 different careers and live a complete full life. There's also a possibility of having one career. Maybe you only want to be a mother and you have 50 kids, so everything is possible. But we need to see motherhood as a career. If we see protection, policing, and stuff as a career, then motherhood is a career. It's a job. And it needs training and benefits. Okay, so where am I now? Where am I? Okay. Competitive. Yeah. See, I don't like that word. Quality. Then which of the following factors do you feel will help the economy fully rebound? And I went over that. Then, do you support President Trump and Republicans' effort to secure our national borders and work aggressively to enforce immigration laws to protect our nation from legal, illegal immigration, human trafficking, and drug smuggling? So if we turn drugs legal, then we've got that problem solved, right? And if we ask the 2 other countries near us to become states and show them the benefits of it, then we don't really have the human trafficking aspect so much. Then if we, illegal immigration, every county needs to start keeping track of who's living in that county and whether they're a U.S. citizen or not, and what their status is in the country, whether they have the papers to be here or not. So counties and towns need to know who's living in their towns and counties. So it shouldn't be a national problem. It should be a local problem. And it should be that the counties tell them the state, and then the state reports that information to the federal government. So why is it happening this way? I don't know, but it's kind of stupid. So we need to change that. So instead of keeping a registering to vote list, county clerks need to keep a who is living in my county list. And then from that list, you need to have a list of U.S. citizens and non-U.S. citizens. And then from the non-U.S. citizens list, you need to have who's becoming a citizen, who's not becoming a citizen, who's here on a school visa, who's here on a work visa, and so on and so forth. And the county clerk is in charge, actually. But and the county commission is in charge. So they need to get to work on that list, is what they need to do. So immigration is not really the problem of the federal government, truthfully. I mean, there should be border guards and everything, and that's one thing, but not the way it's sort of being done now, no. Do you approve President Trump's deporting of illegal immigrants who are criminals and terrorists? Absolutely. And anybody discovered in our country who is illegally here needs to be returned to whatever entrance they came in. If they came in from Mexico, they need to be returned to Mexico. If they came in from Canada, they need to be returned to Canada. And it doesn't matter if they're Chinese or from wherever they are, the Philippines, whomever, they need to be returned to the place where they came through. And then they need to fill out the documents and try again. And if they don't fill out the documents, they're not welcome back. If they fill out the documents, then they can come back in if everything is okay and if they're not a criminal otherwise, other than being illegally here. So, do you support only appointing judges who will adhere strict constitutional principles and not use the court to advance their personal ideologies? Yes, I 100% agree with that. They are U.S. citizens and they need to think in a equality U.S. citizen way, non-biased, non-prejudice, none of that. The Democrats' fixation on climate change has led to costly regulations and negative I'm not sure where we're going with climate change. It seems that we can control the weather right now. So let's use our power to control the weather to create less climate change and more of what we need. This video is going awfully long, but I guess it was important. So, do you agree with President Trump that we must eliminate the Biden regulations that have hampered U.S. energy development? Probably. I mean, I don't know if I agree with all of the energy development called fracking that's going on, and how the fracking water is being redistributed and everything. So I do have some issues. I think we should move more towards solar power, so less on depleting our country of its natural resources. And let's use what nature gives us from the sun that will produce enough energy. So are you concerned that the Democrats are going to take away individual Second Amendment rights? No, not at all. But I do have a Second Amendment right concept where we need to build a community and have a shooting range where people with guns need to come in periodically throughout the year and show that they know how to use their weapon safely and that they are mentally okay. And if they're not, they need to seek some psychiatric help. But it has to be done in a community atmosphere. Do you support deploying the National Guard to combat rising crime in Democrat-run U.S. cities? Yes, I agree. The National Guard, like I said, needs to go everywhere, not just Democrat. So, pointing your fingers at the Democrats is not attractive Republicans. And if you want to save yourself, you should stop doing that. What should be Republicans' main crime reduction strategy? Apprenticeships and communities. So like what I've been describing already. They wrote more law enforcement, criminal justice reform, local policing, and prevention. So I say we give these people jobs and build their egos. And especially we need to start with boys around the age of 13, 14, because that's when the boys start getting into trouble. And we don't want that. So communities have to be open and friendly and helpful. Do you believe that our nation's schools should again teach our children American civics, including Constitution works and the importance of liberty? 100%. That's what I want to do with the 17-year-olds. I want to show them what their country is really, what it's about, what's around. I want them to go to Washington to meet their representatives and to meet the president and to see all the great things, and the Supreme Court, and to see all the great things in our country, and to learn how to write lawsuits and take care of themselves so that they know what their rights are. Because right now our kids don't know. Our adults don't know, and they're being walked all over. So this is 100% important for me. When they're 17 to 18. When they're 18, then there'll be a big ceremony, and they graduate into adulthood as a U.S. adult citizen, and with all the U.S. adult rights that one has at 18. Do you agree with the Republicans that the best way to ensure every child in America has access to the best education possible is by supporting charter schools and voucher programs, despite the fierce opposition of the Democrats and the teachers' union? So I think we don't need charter schools whatsoever. I said that before. And voucher programs, I don't think we need that either. If our public schools are a certain amount of quality, you should not have to go to a private school. Period. If you want to go to a private school, that's on you. Our job as a government is to provide a certain level of education. And my promise to my U.S. citizens is that my public schools will produce the best quality students possible. So this is how it is. If you want to go to a private school, go. But in the morning, you still have to come to the public school because you are raising a U.S. citizen, and I want to know that that U.S. citizen is safe and sound. In private schools, I don't know that. So private schools will only be in the afternoon. National defense. Well, this has gone on way too long. So I'm going to actually stop here, and I guess I'll answer this in another one. But I guess one of the... well, yeah, I guess I just have to make another video. Here they mention Iran. So this could be that this is what set off President Trump to do what he did this past weekend. Because the results came in on these to the Republican people. All right. So thank you again for stopping by. I have a website. It's susan4usa.com. That's Susan the number 4 usa.com. And I wish us all peace. We need peace. But I do know that change is difficult, and that's what we're feeling. Too many things went on for too long without being changed, and that's why we have to change it now. So it is a tough time, but we can get through this together. Okay, I am going to stop here, and I'll pick this up on the next one. Again, I appreciate you stopping by. Have a good day.